Hey everyone, it's been a little bit since I've been here. So welcome to the Total Wreck Ranch. I will be your non-tour host for the day. I have been outside multiple times attempting to make a video, just a little farm tour, and it keeps raining every time I go out. Like it's not raining now, but I was just out there letting chickens out and it was pouring. So, you're going to get my face in a chat. That's what you're going to get. Lucky you. So, I just want to talk about, like, what our year looks like, what we've been doing, and what we have upcoming. So, earlier this year, well, in the fall of last year, I ordered some eggs for hatching, and we hatched out, I think 4 out of 12 eggs, maybe 6 hatched, and I think only 4 hatched. Anyway, I've never done shipping eggs before. Anybody else? Like, I just didn't have a great deal of luck. However, I went to the site because I wanted to order these American breast chickens. And so they were pushed out all the way to January, but I went ahead and ordered them. I think this was in like early September. So we grew out the first group of 4 chicks. I ended up having 2 roosters, 2 hens, one of them which was broken. I don't know what's wrong with her, but she's broken. She's living in my back room right now, still in a box. It's a big box, but she doesn't move around a lot because she has a leg that is just sticking straight out. And it has been since she hatched. Now, I did not hatch these chickens. My daughter and my granddaughters did. So I don't know what happened in the hatch. But nonetheless, here we are. And we have been trying to determine her fate for a long time. Now, she looks much better. I started feeding her high protein turkey food, like a wild game, and she has improved greatly. So that's a plus. She is now standing on her other leg, which was starting to curl and do some weird stuff. No matter what I did, I could not get this, but her leg is still just straight out to the side of her. So, anyway, she's my cloak and dagger is what she looks like. She brings her wing up over her head, and makes a weird little screechy noise. So anyway, enough about her. So we ordered the breast chicks. Those came, I want to say early February, maybe late January. It was right after my eye surgery. In fact, I was not expecting them, and then I got the call that they were at the post office. So I ran up there and grabbed them. There were 11 in the box. One of them did not survive the trip. I don't know what happened to the other 2, but we only have 8 now. Anyway, they're doing very well. They're just a different breed of meat chicken that you can sustain yourself on the farm. I don't know if I explained this already, but quickly meat birds that you order, the Cornish cross, are very fast growers, very hard to replicate. Okay, so you always have to rely on someone else to hatch them out. I don't know how they do it, but they do. So I'm not interested in trying to learn because I have enough to do. If I want them, I will order them. But for now, we have these American breasts, and they are supposed to be a very good meat chicken. So we grew those out, and they are now out in a grow out pen, and in need of a big coop. So that is on the list of to-dos. We also grew 2 baby ducks who are huge now. And they are out in their grow out pen, soon to be integrated with the big ducks that we already have, the 1-year-olds. And then we ventured into some turkeys. So I ordered 6 turkeys. Well, I bought 6 turkeys from our local feed store. And I've never raised turkey poults before. And apparently they are a little persnickety. Not like chickens where you can just literally give them a heat plate, water, and food and they get it, right? Like you introduce them to water and stuff, which I did with the baby poults. Anyway, within 24 hours, they started dying. and I had 1 left. So I ended up ordering 10 from a hatchery, and we now have 11, and they're doing very well. They're ginormous for being as old as they are. I don't remember when that was, to be honest. I feel like it was in March, maybe early April. Anyway, so there's that. So we have 2 new additions to the farm in that ducks, but also the American breast breed and the turkeys. So let's see. So what am I learning this year? So we're already into May, right? And I'm learning that even if I think I can do it, I'm going to be overwhelmed at some point. I'm not going to be prepared. So I've done a lot more hatching and growing out babies in the last 2 years than I really ever have before. So we're building these grow out pens, like the turkeys have their own grow out pen. And the baby ducks have their own grow out pen, and the American breast had their own grow out pen. They were all things that we had around the farm already. Just figuring out that's another thing we're doing this year is using what we have. Learning to repurpose something for an intention it didn't have in the beginning. So everything is a challenge. This is my first year actually home by myself, not grandma duty or anything else, but just focusing on the farm and making the farm functional and also a little bit profitable. Now, I'm not expecting to get rich off the farm. That is not my goal. But if I can get the farm to give back to the farm to feed the animals, then I feel like I've really accomplished something. Because when you're growing your own food, right, the goal is no grocery store, right? That's why you do it. And you know what's going into it, and you know how they're raised, and you are counting on yourself and not some grocery store chain or corporate America to decide what you're going to eat. So if you're just replacing your grocery bill with a feed bill, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So right now the goal is getting the animals to turn profit, if you will. Will they ever turn a profit? No. They won't, and I don't expect them to. But I've also taken up plant starts this year, so planting plants from seeds. I have successfully grown out 15 tomato plants, 36, well, actually 36 the second time, but I think 18 before, green bean plants. And I'm growing the bush variety because they put out prolific amounts of beans. So I've done that. Marigolds. I did not have a successful pepper grow, but I'm going to do it again. The weather's just been funky. It's been very wonky. It's been colder than normal and also then hotter than normal and blah, blah, blah. So I'm getting ready to start pepper seeds. And we have a very long growing season in Texas, so I have time to play with some of these things. And you can always succession plant. But the goal was this year to buy as few plant starts from big box stores or the farmer's market as possible. And that means growing your own seeds and starting them. So that has been my focus this year. Early January, mid-January, I had eye surgery. Finished the last one was on January 31st. And then about 7 days after that for recovery for the second eye. That was phenomenal, by the way. And it's just so different to be able to see well with no contacts. So I love that. Anyway, so the year has just gone by so super fast. Now, in between there, we've had loads of rain, which I'm not complaining about because rain is good. Rain, we didn't have any last year. So the more reserve we get this year in our ponds and in any water catchments that we have set up, which is not very many, that's also another focus that we're working on. But really this year is about prioritizing and just bringing, so last year we did a lot of work on our feed budget because the cost of feed went through the roof. And then on top of that, there was the drought that was so bad that even the ground coverage was not enough to sustain the animals. So we were buying hay and feed and basically going broke, okay? So we did figure out how to taper that down. We supplement with mineral buckets just because the land here was very raw when we got here. And it still is very raw in a lot of areas. The goats and the cows have done a tremendous job of cleaning out the back pastures. But what we need to do this year is work on secondary paddocks so that we can start sort of a permaculture plan, right? So that's what we're working on this year. We are planting fruit trees here pretty quick before it gets too hot. And time just gets away from you. Like if they don't get in the ground, nothing's wrong. They're growing fine and they're big. I have big 17-gallon containers that they're in. They're only a couple of years old, so they may take longer to fruit if we take longer to get them in the ground. But listen, we're not in a hurry. It's not a race. Just making sure that wasn't mud. I was just outside. And every time, like I said, every time I go out there, it starts to rain. So I went out to let the chickens out. And I tried to video, and then it started to rain. You can't get your camera wet. And, the animals were running amok, and it just was a cluster, if you will. So that's what we're up to this year, is expanding lightly and perfecting and focusing on infrastructure. What does that look like? How can we most cost effectively do this? Because we do this on a budget, y'all. I don't work now, and Chris does. His job sustains us quite well. But when you're starting a homestead from scratch, it's expensive. There were some outbuildings here. Those are serving their purpose right now. But we'd like to improve upon all of them, whether it is rebuilding some of it or tear down, start all over. So those are things that you have to budget out. We are also saving up for a side-by-side, like a Razor, Polaris, whatever you want to call it, to get around the property. Just for efficiency's sake, okay? So the property is pretty big, but the animals are fairly consolidated. It's just being able to carry feed. And we've tried feed out by the pens, and it doesn't work. The animals get into it, whether it's predators or the actual, the goats are terrible. About cows, we had a cow jump the fence and knock over all the feed cans, and y'all, like, it's just, so they're all inside. Our house is surrounded by a chain link fence. It's probably a half acre that's chain linked off. I think the dogs are gonna get loud, so give them a minute. Okay, they lay down. I don't know what the cows are probably out back, and so the outside dogs are barking, getting everyone's attention. Anyway, so that's what we've been up to this year, y'all, is improving upon our self-sufficiency. So when you first start doing something, like, I don't think I came into this thinking it was going to be easy by any means. But it's been challenging in ways that I wasn't anticipating. Like, other things happened that factored in. So you had, the pandemic that happened, and then the prices of everything went up, and then the food shortages, then the feed shortages, then the egg shortages, and then, I try to be ahead of a lot. The avian flu, like, all these things happen that no one could predict. And now, just going forward, that's sort of the mindset that we're going with, is that stuff's going to happen, is going to hit the fan. And I don't mean in a big mega way. I hope it does not do that, although I feel like it could at any moment. I feel like we're at a boiling point. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about more is things come up that you don't know. And you can't anticipate those things. Like, when we lived in our house in the city, right? You know, things were happening in the world, but they were not directly impacting to the extent that they do now, right? I just feel like we've just been set back a little ways. So I think there's a lot of people that are looking into growing their own food, preserving their own food, and, you know, looking to buy from the smaller farmer rather than the big stores who are unreliable. And honestly, I mean, there's a lot of vaccinations going on to animals now, and I just don't want, I don't want to be a part of what's coming from their silliness, right? I want to know where my food comes from to the best of my ability, the most of it. Do I go to the grocery store? I do. Like, I don't know how to make sweetened condensed milk. I don't have a dairy cow. I have to have milk, cheese, butter. I know how to make my own butter. So I've been self-teaching a lot of things to myself, but I'm still relying on manufactured foods to get a lot of that stuff. Does that make sense? So like we grow some vegetables, it's not enough. We have not grown enough of anything other than tomatoes to preserve on our own. So I will still buy things at the farmer's market to make sure that at least it's fresh. I have canned it myself or preserved it myself, whether it's through the freezer or through the canning process. Bought our meat from a local source, our beef. And so, you know, we have these visions of expanding, and we had pigs at one point, and, you know, it's a season. It's what you go through. We process it. We put it in the fridge or the freezer, and it fed us for a couple years. We had a couple pigs that we put in there. And then we went to beef, and we've done beef a couple years in a row. So you're always expanding on things, right? Like you start out and just everything, like animals multiply. So there's that. And you want them to, you want to replicate on the farm what is going to be the most sustaining for you. If you buy your animals every year and process them, okay, but, and if that works for you and that's the way you have to do it, then do that. But we're trying to learn how to replicate the stuff on our farm so that we're not having to rely on someone else or another source, to get our food. Are we ever going to be 100%? I don't know. I'd say we're 40% at best. And that's during the gardening season, if we can get enough growth. Last year we didn't get enough. So I bought a lot of frozen vegetables, a lot of canned vegetables, to stock my pantry with. Do I love that? No, but I'd rather have that than not have anything at all, right? So we live a long way from the grocery store, so I like having a well-supplied, well-stocked pantry so that there's no place for me to, like, if I run out of something, there's no place close by me within, the closest place is 16 miles, and those grocery stores are not that big. Are they decent? Yeah, but they're not that big. There's not that much selection. So I would rather not have to run 16 miles, which I wouldn't run, but I would rather not have to drive there to get what I want when I could do it on a trip, like a stock up trip, right? So when I use something, I don't want to get into a whole nother piece of this, but this is what we're learning to do this year, is keep our pantry stocked, which we have done very well. I feel like we have that fairly mastered. Now we're working on us stocking our pantry, not someone else, not the grocery store. Will we always have some reliability on convenience? Absolutely. You know, I mean, it's always going to be there. We're not going to be 100% self-sustaining, but I'd like to be as close as we could. And some of that is adapting to what you can do. So, you know, like for me, I have mastered a very good chunk of pressure canning. So when I buy something like green beans, I'll buy 25 or 50 pounds and I'll can it and put it on my shelf. I couldn't eat 50 to 25 pounds worth of green beans in enough time. Like if I grew them, I would have to process them. So that was the whole point of starting the garden, was I don't want to have to buy my food somewhere if I can grow it myself, right? Then you're buying plants, plant starts. I'm going to tell you this. So think about this. So I grew 4 heads of broccoli this year, which means I bought 4 broccoli plants from the farmer's market. I probably paid somewhere around $1.39 to $2 for each one of these plants. And they yield 1 head of broccoli. So would I not be better off learning to grow my own broccoli? Yes. So what I started out this year with was green beans, marigolds, tomatoes from seed. And it's been very successful. I have not been successful with peppers yet, but like I said, I'm getting ready to start those. And we'll see how that goes. Because if I can grow enough for myself, I have given some away. My plan is to sell some in the future, because all of that gives back to the farm for the next year's growth. It's not like we're going to make a fortune off of selling eggs and plants and produce, possibly. I haven't even grown enough produce to sell at this point. So that's the focus for this year. So I hope that catches you up. I know I rambled a little bit, but if you are considering doing this, you know, subscribe below, because I'm going to do a lot more talking about some of the challenges. Last year I was super busy with family things, and I just wasn't able to put my time into content creating like I wanted to. So I'm hoping that the next half of this year, I can really focus on doing that and putting out some valuable information, some educational videos on canning, preserving, freezer canning, growing the garden, doing all of those things. If the rain will start cooperating, please. I'm so happy about the rain. If you could have seen our pond last year, we were going to stock it with fish. I'm so glad that we didn't. Because I don't know if they would have survived with the lack of water that was in there. So that's what we're going to do this year. We are not overflowing, but we have an abundance of water out there right now. And I think even in a rough year, we'll hold that water pretty well. So anyway, I want to wish you all a very happy Mother's Day. I hope that you get all the plants that you want. I hope that you start a garden. And it doesn't matter who you mother, right? There's nothing like a mother. And if your mother's not here, love on someone else in honor of your mother. It just, you know, it's just a way of giving back to your mom if she's not here anymore. So I hope that you all have a lovely weekend and that you enjoy celebrating being a mom with your family. So thanks a lot for hanging out with me, and I will see you on the next video.